Hi there, I am Tanya Windiker and I have complex PTSD. Okay, so I'm asked so often, what does it actually mean being triggered, having those vivid flashbacks? And how come you can't ground yourself quickly afterwards? You know, you just look around, you know, you're actually safe. So why are you so freaked out still? Okay, and it always stuns me that people don't see what is going on in my brain, but it must be really difficult for other people to understand. So I'm trying to explain this a little bit in this video, okay? So, but if you had a childhood filled with trauma, one abusive incident after the other, it hardwires our brain to be really hyper-vigilant, hyper-aroused, constantly on the lookout for any sort of danger to protect ourselves. And it's really hard to actually calm our brain down just a little so we're not so quickly and easily triggered. But that takes a lot of work, that takes a lot of therapy. And going to therapy takes a lot of courage to actually work through all those things. But the tricky part is that when you're triggered, it's a bottom-up mechanism. So that means that that primitive part of our brain, that amygdala and the hippocampus are turned on. Okay, that's where the fight, flight, freeze response is happening. It's an instinct. It's not something that we choose to do. It happens automatically to protect our body. It happens for everyone. But the problem is when the amygdala takes over, we lose connection to our prefrontal cortex there. And that is where all the rational thinking is happening. You know, we need our prefrontal cortex to plan ahead, to make good decisions and so forth, okay, to think things through. So all in a sudden you don't have access to this, okay? This is very important. This is why when I am triggered into a flashback, I don't actually even recall that I've ever been to a therapy session in that moment. Because when things are that vivid, it's like we're not just reliving the past, it actually feels like I am a child in that moment. Okay, I know that sounds really crazy, but at that point in time, if you asked me what my name was, it would be really difficult for me to answer that question. And if you would ask me my age, I most likely would not be able to answer the question. Because at that point of time, everything just goes crazy in our heads. There's no rational thinking about it, and we really feel like we're back in that moment. If that happens in a therapy session, the therapist picks up on it rather quickly, and they help us talk us through in a way that they put words to what just happened. You know, if, for example, someone just slammed the door outside, or the wind slammed the door shut, that therapist would actually speak that out and say, hey, that was a loud bang, that door just slammed. That helps us to recognize, okay, that's what happened. And then putting us back in the present, hey, we're actually now in my office. It's actually a safe space. And that really helps us to get that prefrontal cortex back online, okay? Things like that. Not to minimize us or belittle us or humiliate us in that point, but just very gently remind us, hey, this was the noise, this car just backfired, or whatever that incident just was, and help us remind ourselves, hey, we're actually at the shops at the moment. This is a safe space we're in. You've been triggered. Okay, that can really help us get us back into that window of tolerance again and become grounded and have that prefrontal cortex back online. If you're still struggling with it, another way of looking at it is if you're on the internet and you're just watching a movie, and right at a point where it gets really intense and you really want to know what happens next, you lose your internet connection. And without the internet connection, there's nothing you can do to find out what happened after in that movie, okay? And that's a little bit like not having a prefrontal cortex in a way. There's nothing you can do in that moment. Once you lost that connection, you will not be able to use or have access to that information. But this is using the internet. If you lose the internet connection, there's no way for you to have any access to that information on there. For us, when we're triggered, there's no way of having any sort of analytical, rational thinking ability in that moment. And just please be patient with us. It takes such a long time to rewire our brain, to help our brain to calm down a little bit, so to recognize that now the danger is actually over, and so we're not so easily triggered into this fight-flight mode. But it takes years to do this. So, but I very much appreciate you taking the time to actually even watch a video like this, because that shows that you are a caring person, and I very much appreciate you for this. So thank you very much, and for all of you, sending you lots and lots of love and rainbows to brighten up the tough times just a little.